think, for me, the big things, the number one thing you can do is learn how to effectively acknowledge your team, right? So know how to have those conversations and appreciate what they're doing well, but also on the flip side of that, know how to have those conversations when things aren't going as well as you'd like them to.
Welcome to the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. I am your host, Scott Aaron, and each and every week, I'm going to come to you with short, simple, and powerful tactics of how you can grow your network marketing business, brand, bank account, and impact on those around you. And just remember, network marketing is not easy, but it can be made easy with simple steps to create the success that you truly deserve.
Welcome to episode 124 of the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. And if you are a new listener, then welcome. And if you are a returning listener, then welcome back. And as always, if you are a seasoned or new network marketer and you are building your business primarily through the means of Facebook and Instagram, and you are not yet harnessing and leveraging the power and potential of LinkedIn, then head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can fill out a form to schedule a free 15-minute call with me where I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we could potentially work together. So in being it a new year and everyone sets their goals and everyone has their vision boards done and they're ready to dive forward and really crush everything in their business and everything in 2020, I found it very appropriate to have the certain guest that I have for you guys today come on here. Him and I originally connected on, surprise, surprise, LinkedIn, and we saw eye to eye immediately on a discovery call that we did. He is a soon-to-be author. He is a culture-driven leadership trainer, which I absolutely love and am in alignment with. And he also does personal and business coaching. But the two big things that this gentleman is all about that I am so in tune with is leadership and culture, not just in everyday life, but now most importantly in business, because that's where it trickles down from. The way that you do one thing is the way that you do everything. So if you're going to go to the workplace, you're going to be culture driven, you're going to be a leader, you're going to take that home to the home, and you're going to be one there as well. So everyone, I would love to welcome Adam Sinkus to the show. Adam, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, no, definitely appreciate it. Glad to be here and glad to talk leadership.
Absolutely. So let's dive in first. And I always like to go backwards before we go forward. So you're doing all these incredible things now. We're going to talk about the book that's going to be released later this year. But, the fact is you're a culture-driven leadership trainer, business coach, personal coach. You work with organizations and companies. Where did you get your start and what was the segue into what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I had my comeuppance in the business world in the BPO industry. For everybody else, that's simply put, it's if you think about call centers and data processing centers, BPO industry is the people that run that, right? So worked in call centers, worked in data processing centers, and just really learned the process of business through there. Jumped into consulting for somebody else. And absolutely fell in love with the process of just going in and helping people. Earlier this year, I just had the realization that, it's time to stop doing this for somebody else. It's time to really start doing it for myself and do it for companies that really want to see the change and really drive change within their organization. And so that's kind of where I came from and definitely where I'm going as we move into 2020 as well. So
what's the big, network marketing, entrepreneurship, whether you're working in corporate or not, leadership is everything. So this is a loaded question, but what I love about questions, Adam, is that we bring our own meaning to them. So if someone was to ask you, what does leadership mean to you? How would you respond to that?
So leadership to me is simply this, right? It's the ability to guide, inspire, educate, and grow the people around you. Whether you are in charge of that team or whether you are just a member of that team, leaders are the first people that to get their hands dirty and the last people to walk away after everybody has completed everything that they need to do. So leaders to me are all about the people and the process.
So who is that person for you, that first person that opened your eyes up to leadership, where you looked up to this individual, where it motivated you and it drove you forward to wanting to step into your own version of what leadership meant to you?
Um, I would say it wasn't really a person. It was a culmination of working with a bunch of organizations that didn't really have good culture, and just looking at it and looking at how the leaders were driving this poor culture and continuing to drive this poor culture, and I go, this isn't right. And so, I step back and go, how can I make this better? How can I impact this? And that's really what drove me into stepping out on my own and really driving a different message through companies and through organizations and people that I work with.
It's interesting. I had a good friend of mine on my podcast a few weeks ago, and I I asked. It was my buddy Bryce Wilson, who owns a company called Ticket Pickers, and
Hmm.
I asked him. I said, "How did you?" Because his whole thing is culture and leadership, and he said at a very young age, when he was working on a golf course, he just inherently knew that the way that he was being led, he could do it better. He wasn't he wasn't motivated by the way that he was being led. He was motivated to become a better leader by the holes and gaps that he was seeing in the leadership that he had to abide by for the company that he was working for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
So would you say that you're in alignment with that, where you were a part of organizations, you were a part of companies and cultures, but you just felt like there's something missing here, and I know I cannot do it better, but I can do it more efficiently and effectively?
Yes. Not so much the efficient part, right? Because I think the drill sergeant leaders are very efficient. They're just not effective. So, I always looked at it as I knew how to be more effective and how to really drive those connections with people.
So let's dive into leadership, because in network marketing, I'm sure you have some friends that have dabbled or have done it or still do it. Leadership is big because, when you're building an organization in network marketing, you have to help people see what is invisible, because, you're looking at this business that doesn't exist until you step into it. But for those people that are listening to this, Adam, that are stepping into entrepreneurship, they're stepping into network marketing, they're stepping into their own power as a leader, what are some things that people can do to become a better leader that is developing other leaders and not followers?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think, for me, the big things, the number one thing you can do is learn how to effectively acknowledge your team, right? So, um, know how to have those conversations and appreciate what they're doing well, but also on the flip side of that, know how to have those conversations when things aren't going as well as you'd like them to, right? And I think when you have good conversations on both sides of the coin, when you do have to step into that role of, you know what, this isn't going the way we planned it, um, it's easier to have that conversation because they trust your guidance, they trust your direction with it. So that's a really, really big piece for me. I also like to really understand the goals of the people that I'm working with. Right. So I always focus on, let's have a goal planning session. Let's talk about, what does the next 6 months look like? What does the next year look like? What does the next 3 years look like? And really understand where they want to go. Because I think if you understand where somebody wants to go, it's easier to help guide them down that path with the experience that you bring to the table as a leader. And so, so having just those continual talks about goal planning and what the future holds and how we're working towards that future is super important. But on the flip side, it's how you tie that back to the agendas and the objectives of the organization or of your own personal goals. Obviously, with the network marketing, you have to tie that back to your agenda of what are we trying to accomplish as a team, right? So, so it's really important to take what are their goals and tie them back into the overall goals so that they feel like their goals are part of the overall success.
You said something really important. It's one word, and you said we.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that really defines a leader from a dictator. Dictators say I, leaders say we.
Yes.
And I think that's really important for people to understand that it's never about you. It's about us. Because the analogy that I give people, Adam, is an army of two is twice as strong as an army of one. So when you can lock arms with people with the same vision, the same goals, the same avenues that you would like to take to achieve certain things in your life, whether it be physically, financially, spiritually, whatever it is, when you lock arms and you have that we mentality instead of I, it is so life-changing. And that's something that I had to learn as well, because when you can turn the mirror around on yourself and really understand that you can impact people that much more when you have that we mentality instead of the I mentality, the game changes. So how important is that? Let's talk about the we mentality. How important is it for a leader of an organization in network marketing, or a leader in corporate for that matter? How important is it for them to have that we mentality?
The we mentality is everything. I liken it to this, right? We hear about corporate goals, we hear about personal goals. People go, I want to make 10% more in revenues or profits this year, right? At the end of the day, the people that are doing that work could care less about your 10% more in profits unless they're going to see a piece of that pie. And if they're not going to see a piece of that pie, then you have to be personally engaged in what drives them. And so, so I really strive for that relationship first and foremost, right? So we are a team. We know each other. We have conversations about things that go outside of work that really drive the relationship, because the relationship is really, in my mind, the first part of being able to have to be an effective leader. If you have a good relationship with your team, even through the bad and the rough, they trust and implore your guidance on situations because they know that you have their best interest in mind. And so, the we mentality is just really about stepping back and going, what's in the best interest of the team and how can we do that together? I posted not too long ago a short little story, so to speak. It's a CEO sees a team in their organization just performing extremely well. So he goes down to that team and sees an individual running around assisting everybody on the team, and he asks who's in charge of this team, and the response from the team leader was, "We all are, sir." It's really that's the mentality. When you empower your team and involve them in everything that you do, you become a we instead of an I.
So important. And this kind of leads me to the next thing that I want to talk about, which is something that you also are driven by, and that's culture. And there's a lot of people that don't really know what culture is, but sometimes culture is felt more than seen. And when you can develop a very powerful culture within an organization, like a network marketing team or a business for that matter, that's like an unstoppable force. It's like a hurricane that literally you just have to move out of the way because it'll just run you over. So talk about not only leadership, but the importance of establishing a healthy and effective and meaningful culture within that organization.
Yeah. So culture, I find, I found in my research, right, when you talk to CEOs all agree that culture is probably the single most important driving factor of their business. Uh, but those same CEOs, about 85% of them, jump back and say culture is the one thing that's lacking in their organization as well. Well, why is it lacking? Because they do what everybody else does. They do the once a year culture survey or employee engagement survey. We have reviews once a year where we talk about this stuff, and then it's never talked about ever again. So when you get down to the people that actually make up the culture, you get out of the C-suite, you get out of even the director level, and you get down to the individual contributors and the team leaders. They have a whole different view of what the culture is because of the message that's communicated to them. So one of the things that I really talk about with organizations is, when you are at the front of the organization, you need to live that culture the same way you expect everybody else in the organization to live that culture. And it's really, it really does roll downhill. So good or bad, whatever's coming from the top will show itself at the bottom. And I find more often than not, it's a lion rearing its ugly head, and nobody knows how we got there. But the reality is we got there because the top of the organization said numbers, 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 and the bottom of the organization said we can't work any harder.
So what are some things that people can do that they're building their organization and they're wanting to establish a healthy culture? Where does one start when really laying down the foundation or the infrastructure, for that matter, of how to have a healthy culture within that organization?
Yeah, so I always start with your mission and values, right? And even if you are an entrepreneur, just starting your company, just starting your team, right? Develop a mission and values. This is your guiding light, because that's going to help drive where that culture comes from. The next piece is really building clear communications channels from the top to the bottom. As the CEO, you know, I shouldn't, I'm not any better than, the person 7 levels below me that's, answering the phone at the front desk. You we all have our value within the organization. Uh, so I can't be afraid to go interface with those people and have conversations with those people and understand what is driving those people. I may not be involved with it day to day, but I'm having those conversations with the people that are involved with it every day, and really understanding the people side of my organization and how that implores and drives the number side of the organization. Because like you said, a solid culture, an organization with solid culture will just steamroll the competition. Culture drives performance at the end of the day.
Oh, I love that. Culture drives performance. So let's sit on that for a second. Network marketers, sometimes they don't see themselves as business owners. They don't see themselves as leaders or culture creators.
Mhm.
So speak to that. Taking this business seriously, taking your leadership and your culture seriously, that can make or break anything. So there are so many people that just aren't sure where they should start. They're just
Yep.
unclear. They know they have a business. They have a team they want to lead. Where can someone first start by really understanding the skills not only of leadership and culture, but really how to inspire and motivate those around them to want similar things that they do?
So the first thing is you need to understand, first of all, what they want, right? Not everybody wants to be $1 million or the CEO of Microsoft. And so, whether that's what you want, that's awesome. But not everybody wants to be that. Some people just want to live comfortably, be able to take a vacation when they want to take a vacation, and have the freedom to schedule their own life, right? So, um, understand your individual team's goals, first of all, and how they play within what you are trying to accomplish as a business owner. Um, and then, secondly, be transparent about what you expect and why you expect it. And I think the why is more important than the what. So often we get things like, I expect that we're going to grow 10% this year. Well, that's great. Why do I care that we're going to grow 10% this year? So, really diving into the why we're accomplishing goals, not just what goals we're accomplishing, but why, helps people become involved in that. And then I also like to throw out brainstorming sessions as well on how we're going to accomplish those goals. So it's not just my ideas that are the ones that are driving it. It's the whole team's ideas. So are we going to run a blitz, a marketing blitz on Facebook for the next 15 days to really get our product out there? Are we going to jump on LinkedIn and all follow, feed, and comment on each other's posts so we're getting more visibility? Those are simple things that a lot of times the team will come up with great ideas. We employ people because they are experts at what they do, and so we need to support that with them.
So let's talk about your book that's coming out.
Yeah.
What it's called, what it's about, because I think it's really important that there needs to be, there's definitely a need for more books like this. So let's talk about the title, talk about what it's going to conceptually go over, but what inspired you to write this book?
Yeah, so the working title right now is ACE's Leadership, a culture-driven leadership model. That will probably change as I get a little bit closer, just because it's wordy. But really what it's about is it goes over 4 key principles of how to be an effective leader and drive culture. So the A is acknowledge. So this is, we talked about this a little bit earlier on, just how do you have those conversations to acknowledge both good and negative behavior within your team. So it's really about effective communication and driving and building those effective communication channels with your team. The next piece is cultivate, which is all about goal setting. So it's really driving how do we take our team's individual goals and really build them into the master plan of what we're trying to accomplish as a team overall. And then we get into empower, which is really around driving that the autonomy to make decisions and use this knowledge that we're getting as we achieve our goals to become better and build ourselves up as leaders, even though we're individual contributors in our roles. And then the last piece is strengthen, which is just, simply put, let's celebrate those wins. Let's celebrate success together. Let's, just celebrate being a culture-driven team. And, and at the end of the day, this is not a one and done culture project. This is build it and live it every day. And so, it's a model I came up with because I found so many leadership models were around how do I become a better leader, and they talk about basic things like SMART goals and and basic communication techniques, but nothing that really ties it together into the overall culture of the organization and the cultural success that you can drive within an organization by having a really established good rapport with your teams. So it hits kind of a different space than traditional leadership models, and so I drove it because it was something that was just, there's a hole in the market for it, honestly. Everything is leadership or culture, but leadership drives culture, and culture is a result of good leadership. So at the end of the day, why aren't we talking about both together?
Can't have one without the other. Would you not agree?
Oh, I definitely 100% agree with that.
So I have one final question before we end this absolutely epic episode that I know people are going to take so much away from. Obviously, the book is not out yet, and as we get closer, obviously, I will add that link to the show notes where people can go and purchase it. But in the meantime, how can people connect with Adam on social media or website so they can learn more about you and how you can personally assist them?
So right now, the best way to get a hold of me is via LinkedIn. I am on there, according to my wife, way too much. But that is by far the easiest way. Connect with me, follow me. All the stuff that I'm talking about here, I talk about constantly on there. So you can also catch me by email, adam.sinkus@me.com. I am always open to, let's have conversations, let's discuss goals, let's discuss culture in your organization, and how we can drive and build that for you so you can have a successful organization.
Wonderful. Awesome. I know people are going to absolutely take so much away from this, and I'm encouraging you guys to reach out to Adam if there was something that really, really stuck out to you. And final question, Adam, before we sign off for today, there is no wrong answer. That's what I love about this question. So what does success mean to you?
Success to me is that I was better today than I was yesterday. So just looking at it from those small incremental steps, did I do something better today? Did I learn something different or more today that I didn't know yesterday? As long as I can answer that yes to that every single day, that's success.
Love it. Adam, thank you so much for spending these last 35 minutes with me and blessing my audience with your knowledge about leadership and culture and how they can absolutely change their businesses with your tips. So Adam, thank you again so much for your time, your energy, and everything that you gave to today's episode. And I appreciate you being here today.
I appreciate you bringing me on as well. And I look forward to sharing more in the future.
Absolutely. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please enjoy the rest of your day, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you again so much for checking out this week's episode. And if you can, head over to iTunes, search for Network Marketing Made Simple, leave me a 5-star rating, basic review. I would be grateful for all of the support you guys can give me. And again, if you'd be interested in learning more how to utilize LinkedIn to grow your business, your brand, and your bank account, head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net. Fill out the form for your free 15-minute discovery call so I can learn more about you, your business, and how we can work together. And again, thank you guys so much. Grateful for you all, and I'll see you next time.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.